Hive's mob game goes away tomorrow, and it was definitely one of the more controversial LTMs on the Hive. Some people loved it, some people hated it, and for some people it was just another game. Today I'm going to be talking about some of the positive parts about mob game, some improvements that need to be made, and make a few suggestions for its future, and then I want to talk about a big underlying issue that I think mob game has. So, mob game is a game where you start as one mob with a certain item or ability, and you use that to kill someone and advance to the next mob. Similar to gun game if you've ever played that. I personally think it has really fun gameplay, and I like how each mob has different abilities that generate different playstyles. My personal favorite is the Iron Golem because it's a really fun game mechanic that when you get flung in the air you have to try to find a tree or light post or balcony to land on. I also really like the Ravager's jumping ability and how with the Enderman attack you can fight people in different elevations. The map is also really cool with the different locations providing different playstyles and giving each mob different advantages and disadvantages. For example, how the sewer is good for mobs with ranged attacks like Wither or Skeleton, and how the more open areas give an advantage to mobs with splash attacks like the Ravager or the Evoker. I've also seen a lot of people say they don't like the upgrade power-up, but I personally think it's a good thing because we all have those moments when we're stuck on a mob for way too long, and the upgrade can help speed the game up and make it more enjoyable. While there are of course balancing changes that could be made with specific mobs' health and damage, the core concept of mob game is pretty fun. Now I'm going to talk about some of the problems I feel need to be improved with mob game, and the first thing I'm going to point out is the pacing. It almost feels like turn-based combat because when you're waiting on your attack to cool down you have to run around dodging and weaving, which is pretty annoying. I feel like every mob's attack cooldown needs to be faster, except for the Evoker because it has 2 attacks, the Witch because it's already kind of fast, and the Warden because of how strong its attack is. This would make the game a lot more fun because you wouldn't have the awkward dancing around while your opponent is lining up their attack. Even if a faster fire rate weren't implemented for every mob, I think it should be implemented for the Wither and the Drowned because those are just really difficult to get a kill with at the moment, and them being able to attack even just 50% faster would save a lot of frustration from getting stuck on those mobs. Another thing I don't like is the health indicators. I think they should either have not been there in the first place or at least only be shown after you attack someone. This would cut down on the amount of people targeting you when you're low or stealing your kill when you get someone else low, both of which are very annoying features. I'd also like to touch on the random mob order. I think it being random is fine, but I don't like that the last 6 are completely random since getting some of the weaker mobs closer to the end is really annoying to deal with. In their current states, I'd like it if the 4th, 5th, and 6th mobs shuffled between Drowned, Wither, and Skeleton, and then the 7th, 8th, and 9th were the Enderman, Warden, and Evoker. I'd also like it if there were a little indicator showing you what your next mob was going to be. Like I said before, there's also a little more balancing that could be done with specific health and damage, but that part isn't a huge deal. I'd now like to talk about some suggestions I have for the future of mob game. We've seen that the plan is to bring mob game back for Halloween if it does well enough, and this is of course hinted by the map being very Halloweeny itself. I don't think this is a good idea. Hive shouldn't have 2 seasonal LTMs at the same time, and Ghost Invasion is a really fun game that I wouldn't want them to replace. A better idea, in my opinion, is not for them to make it seasonal, but for them to bring the LTM back at random times throughout the year, maybe even with different maps and mob rotations to spice it up. Here are a few of the ideas I came up with. Mob game Winter Wonderland, featuring snow and mountain mobs in a wintry map. Mob game Rise from the Dead, featuring zombie and skeleton variants in a graveyard map. Mob game Hot Water, featuring nether and ocean mobs in a nether/ocean map. Mob game A Terrible Omen, featuring village mobs and illager variants in a village map. Mob game Boss Battle, featuring Minecraft bosses in a map that combines each of their structures. Mob game Fight or Flight, featuring melee and flying mobs in, I don't know what kind of map this one would have, but I think you get the idea. There's a lot of potential to be explored here. Another minor suggestion I'd like for the future would be custom server controls. It of course makes sense that they didn't implement this for a mode that's going to last 2 weeks, but if it were to come back in the future, it would be nice if there were more controls, because there's a lot of opportunity. The things I mentioned earlier, such as mob order, health, and fire rate, should all be customizable, as well as changing the amount of mobs to win and letting you increase the amount of one mob or even remove another mob. Imagine setting up a one in the chamber type of mob game where you have 10 rounds of only skeletons with half a heart and the reload speed is so slow that you have to hit your shots or you're just screwed. You should also be able to toggle some kind of invincibility upon getting a kill, just because it can be annoying to die right after changing mobs. For example, if you get a kill while being flung up by an iron golem but your new mob doesn't have a lot of health, you're gonna be on 1 heart when you drop. And then the last thing that I think they should add in custom server controls is the option for you to go down a mob when you die. While I understand that's not a good mechanic to have when you've got a bunch of mobile players playing your game, it would be fun to implement in custom servers. But now I'd like to talk about an underlying issue in mob game that I don't really think there's a fix for. You can't have fun when you're losing. We've all had bad games when you're stuck on a mob for way too long because you keep getting kill stolen, or you keep getting killed yourself, or you just can't seem to put it all together. And all of a sudden 7 people are done and there's 20 seconds left and you're respawning and you're only on your 5th or 6th mob. That point when the timer is ticking down and you suddenly realize you're not going to make it in time is, in my opinion, the worst feeling loss out of all games on the Hive. As opposed to something in Sky Wars or in Block Party where the loss is quick and can sometimes even be funny, losing in mob game is just plain frustrating, and I don't think there's really any fix for this since it's a direct result of mob game's core mechanics. So that's my take on mob game. It's fun, but also has a few glaring issues. It doesn't have a huge amount of replay value, but that's okay because it's supposed to be a limited mode anyway. I think we can all agree that it was a good idea for the Hive to release this as a limited mode, even if only for the sake of getting more feedback in order to improve it. If you have any thoughts or disagreements on what I had to say, be sure to let me know in the comments section or join my Discord server and let me know there. Like and subscribe if you appreciate what I had to say, and have a fantastic rest of your day.